And today we're going to focus on how to make a sales call and follow-up sales calls to drive maximum loyalty if we can. It's time to make a relationship sales call. You have to, or you want to, make a sales call on an individual that has potential business. I've got about 13 different, I won't call them all skills, but kind of reminder kinds of items as well, but 13 things I wanted to talk about. And what I thought I would do is just focus on the ones that I see being done more wrong than right in the marketplace, all right? Everyone talks about doing your homework before you make the call, and if at all possible, certainly you want to do that. But some of the things I wanted to highlight here is I've been associated with hotels that have lost business before, and we went to go call on this client that was worth $1 million a year, and he would basically say, the reason you lost my business is you don't even know what I do for a living, do you? I know what you guys do in the hotel business. Why wouldn't you know what I do? I'm giving you $1 million a year, number one. Number two, their guests would stay in my client's hotel. They would come down to the front desk. They would say, how do I get to so-and-so place, this client? And the front desk wouldn't even know, nor would they care to even find out. So certainly know what your client does for a living if at all possible. Secondly, if you could pick up any tips on their personalities or hobbies. And lastly, if they've stayed elsewhere. And needless to say, you want to do your homework with regard to history checks. Where have they stayed before? I'm going to cut to the chase a little bit here, but I've seen a lot of salespeople ask a potential client, so what's your budget? And I don't know about you guys, but I've seen more clients fib at this point than tell the truth. So asking them straight up, what is your budget, is probably not the best tactic to take. And what I would do instead is when I'm doing my homework to find out where they've been before, if they've stayed at the Ritz-Carlton, the Westin, and so forth, needless to say, I would know their budget's a little bit on the higher end of things. If they would stay at 2-star, 2.5-star hotels, it probably wouldn't hurt me to ask what's your budget, in hopes that this is one of the events that they could spend more money on. Does that make sense? I hope it does. So, needless to say, do your homework as best you can, all right? Personalities, hobbies, things of interest. The second step, the warm-up. And man, oh man, you know, shame on us. We're so big on rates, dates, space. Rates, dates, space. We're mechanical, man. We're worried about their business. We're worried about how much money we can get out of these guys. We're worried if they're going to fit into our quota. We're worried about us. And we're worried about the money. And what we really need to be worried about is this person. This is a human being. You are a human being. And what we're trying to convey here is from one human being to another that really cares about you, of course your business, but also cares about you and cares about your people. That's the point you want to try to drive home here. You want the warm-up to be genuine, real, sincere, and connect wherever you can genuinely connect. That's the big point. I mean, you're not doing this to be fake or phony and say, oh, let me get through this and get to the real meat of the matter. You really are looking at this potential client as a lifelong client. Do you want one parlor meeting, or do you want 50 parlor meetings over the course of the next few years? All right? So look at the value of the client. Look at them that way. Look at them as real people. Really make a genuine human connection in the warm-up. Third point, personality partner. But the long story short is this. Question for you. If you had to choose between the words or the way that we said the words, what do you think is more important in terms of leaving an impression upon the client or potential client? And obviously it's the way you say things. Now, I'm not saying your words aren't important, because they are. But even more important than the words are the way you say the words. And that's your tone, and that's your delivery, and that's your body movement. That's your body language. So certainly partner with this personality type. And if you truly understand who they are, if you break it down into one of personality styles, one of 4, for us laymen, I mean, I'm not a psychology major, but for us laymen, we could break it down into 4 different personality styles: dominant drivens, ego expressives, stable analytics, and amiable complacents. There are 4 different, distinctly different kinds of styles. I never changed my formula in terms of my approach to selling to people, but I would have nuances, and I would certainly adjust my tone and my delivery. There were words here and there that I would use differently from one personality style to another that would make all the difference sometimes. So what you want to do, if you don't know enough about this stuff, the science behind it, or even the art behind it, is to certainly mirror the personality of the person in front of you. If you're an upbeat person, and most salespeople are, upbeat, expressive, you have a lot of confidence, and you're sitting down in front of a banker who's a lot more reserved and stable analytic, you certainly want to come down in your tone, be fairly monotone, be very exact and specific, and paint pictures with details. So there are specific formulas for these different personality styles. But the short story is this: mirror their personality. And you've got enough time invested in this sales call. We were able to do that right about now. You can't do it right from the beginning, but you can certainly do it right after you get the warm-up and you get some reaction from them, and you can certainly see what kind of personality they are. If you want more on that, by all means, email me and I'll get you some more stuff on personality partnering. All right? The fourth point I wanted to make here was uncover their needs. Now, that sounds like a no-brainer, right? But the bottom line is this. We as salespeople don't spend enough time on uncovering their needs. How do I know that? Because we're more worried about overcoming objections and what are we going to do when they say no kind of a thing. We have to spend more time uncovering their needs and probably more time in this one skill area than anything else I'm going to talk about. If you listen and shut up and listen and listen and listen, you take great notes and you keep probing, you keep delving into what's important to these people, then you're not going to have as many objections as you normally would have. But the mistake we make as salespeople is we want to give all this feedback right away. We're excited. We just tapped into something that we think we can help them with. So we're ready to give feedback. Don't do it, man. Hold back. Ask more questions. Get more details. Make sure you don't run into roadblocks later on. All right? So uncover their needs big time. Shut up. Listen. Now, the next point, really, you never see this in a sales formula. Determine if this business is right for you. And again, when I think back of all the many visits I've ever taken at hotels as a VP of sales or a consultant, the mistake I would see is a disconnect between the sales office quota and how the hotel is really performing. Here's an example. I'd walk into a sales office and say, hey man, how you doing? Oh, we're phenomenal. We're cranking it. Really? I'd go into the GM's office. How we doing? Terrible. Why the disconnect? The disconnect is because the sales office is focused on their quota only. That's a mistake senior management's made, in my opinion. They need to make sure that sales office is totally clued in, totally tapped into how the hotel is performing. They may have misbudgeted the sales quota. They've got to make sure the salespeople understand what's good for the hotel and not good for the hotel, because what's going to happen if they don't is the sales office is going to book bad business. One-night stays, two-night stays, peak period business, lower-rated business when they don't need it. So make sure your sales office is totally tapped into what the hotel needs are, not just their own sales quota. Next point. Connect to big benefits. Again, the mistake I see is, and particularly with the bed and breakfast, for those of you that are on the phone right now that are B&Bs, I see us honing in on bed type and little things that are of little importance to this person, but they're of great importance to you maybe. Focus on what is important to the client. And how do you know what those are? You've uncovered their needs already. They've already told you what's important. Tap into the biggest reasons why they would want to be at your location, do business with you, your services, your product. Why would they want to do business with you? And let's just pick on hotels again, because that's what I know best, and B&Bs. You focus maybe on the surrounding area of the hotel or the B&B. Why would someone want to be there? Proximity to, okay? And then you start working on some of the large function spaces or public spaces of your building, and you tell them exactly what you have to offer. And as you start to get smaller and smaller in this sieve, it's like a sieve where you start with a big picture on top and you start working your way down to the smaller items. Now you're talking about the sleeping room, okay? So big benefits, focus on those first. Then follow it up with benefits tied to what they said they needed. Now, I'm trying to draw a distinction here, additional benefits tied to must needs versus want needs. When you're sitting there and you're writing down what they say is important to them, they're going to tell you about some stuff that they say is important to them that you cannot satisfy. Let's pick something pretty extreme. Yes, I need a helicopter landing pad is one of their requests. Well, you don't have one of those, and you're not going to say anything just yet. Again, you're still uncovering needs. You're saying, okay, what else is important to you? Okay, I'm listening. All right, great. They're done saying what they need to say in terms of what they think their needs are. You think they've forgotten a few things, certainly things that you can accommodate. Believe it or not, I've been out on sales calls with 30-year Hilton directors of sales who were insulted that I actually wanted to go out on sales calls with them to see how good, bad, or indifferent they were. And they would be sitting there asking the potential client what their needs were, and they would ask them something like, and how important would an indoor pool be to you? And the client would say, oh, never thought of it. That'd be great. And the sales director would say, well, that's a shame because I don't have one of those. Honest to God, I've seen it happen. So obviously you want to find out what the must needs are versus what the want needs are. A must need, they have to have it. A want need is, it'd be nice to have it, but it's not critical. All right? So you certainly want to differentiate there.